The observation deck of the Confederation Council Station offered a spectacular view of the nebula beyond. But Ambassador Elena Reyes couldn't appreciate it today. 3 years after humanity's first contact, the honeymoon period was decidedly over. "The human expansion request is unreasonable," said Delegate Han, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the ambient light. "They've barely joined us and already demand access to 3 border systems." Elena suppressed her frustration. Those systems were already mapped for colonization before we knew about the Confederation. Across the chamber, Delegate Kim adjusted her translator. The Ziveri representative had been surprisingly supportive of human interests. "Perhaps we should remember that humans achieved faster than light travel independently. Their ingenuity could benefit us all." The debate might have continued, but an aide rushed in with urgent news. Another human outpost had been attacked. The 3rd this month. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Elena's communication device buzzed with incoming messages from Earth. She glanced at the screen. Casualty reports, damage assessments, and demands for answers she didn't have. "This meeting is suspended," announced the council arbiter, a tall being with 6 limbs and luminescent skin. "We will reconvene in 3 hours to address this crisis." Elena hurried to her office, followed closely by her human assistant. June, the small room felt like a sanctuary compared to the hostile atmosphere of the council chamber. "They planned this," Elena said, pacing the floor. "The attacks always happen during crucial negotiations." Jun nodded, his dark eyes reflecting concern. "The timing is suspicious." Admiral Su sent new data from the attack site. He handed her a tablet. The images showed the remains of Outpost Theta 7. What had been a thriving research station was now twisted metal and debris. The few survivors reported the same thing as previous attacks: ships without identification marks appearing without warning, using weapons that cut through their defenses like paper. Elena's personal communicator chimed. The caller ID showed her old friend and commanding officer from her days in the Space Fleet. "Captain Reyes," said Admiral Su, using her former title out of habit. "I sent a secure data packet to your embassy terminal. For your eyes only." "Is this about the attacks?" "Just review it." "Soon." The connection ended abruptly. Elena used her biometric credentials to access the secure message. The file contained sensor readings from a military patrol ship that had been in the vicinity of the attack. The readings showed energy signatures that didn't match any known Confederation species. "Jun, have you ever seen weapons that leave these kinds of traces?" she asked, showing him the screen. He studied it, frowning. "No, but I'm not familiar with all Confederation technology." "That's just it. Neither am I, but I've been studying their weapons catalogs since the first attack. This doesn't match anything on record." A soft chime announced the arrival of Delegate Su, one of the few council members who treated humans as equals rather than upstarts who had blundered onto the galactic stage. "Ambassador Reyes," Su said, her delicate features arranged in what Elena had learned was an expression of concern for her species. "I came to offer my support. These attacks are troubling." "Do you know who might be responsible?" Elena asked directly. Su's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Officially, no one has claimed responsibility." "And unofficially?" Su moved closer, lowering her voice. "There are factions within the hegemony who believe humans are disruptive to the established order. Your species advances too quickly, adapts too readily. They see us as a threat. Some do. Others see potential. Be careful who you trust, Ambassador. Not everyone in the Confederation views humans the same way." After Su left, Elena studied the data again. Something about the attack pattern seemed familiar, like a half-remembered dream. "Jun, pull up the histories we were given about extinct Confederation species." Jun raised an eyebrow, but complied. "Something specific." "The progenitors, the species that allegedly destroyed themselves in a civil war 10,000 years ago." The holographic display showed limited information. The progenitors had been technologically advanced, responsible for many of the fundamental technologies still used by the Confederation. There, Elena said, pointing to a description of progenitor energy weapons. The characteristics matched the readings from the attack. That's impossible, Jun said. They've been extinct for millennia. Elena's reply was interrupted by her communication device. Admiral Sue again. Elena, we have a situation. The colony ship New Horizon has gone silent in the Epsilon Eridani system. All communication cut off mid-transmission. Elena felt the blood drain from her face. The New Horizon carried over 2,000 colonists, including families with children. It was humanity's most ambitious colonization effort, meant to demonstrate their commitment to peaceful expansion. Was it another attack? Unknown. I'm dispatching the Peacekeeper to investigate. As our diplomatic representative, your presence is requested. The council meeting has been postponed. News about the New Horizon has reached the council. Delegate Min has proposed a joint investigation team. The Peacekeeper will carry representatives from several species. Elena understood the implication. This wasn't just about investigating the disappearance. It was political, a chance to build alliances, gather information, and perhaps discover who was behind the attacks. I'll be ready in an hour, she said. After the call ended, Elena stared out her window at the nebula. Its beauty now seemed like a mask hiding unknown dangers. 3 years ago, humanity had celebrated joining the galactic community. Now, they were fighting for their place in it. Pack for a long journey. She told June, I have a feeling this mission will take us places that aren't on any Confederation map. As her assistant left to prepare, Elena touched the screen displaying the mysterious energy readings. Something was happening in the shadows of the Confederation, something connected to a species that supposedly no longer existed. And somehow, humanity had become entangled in a game they didn't understand, with rules they had never been taught. She would find answers, for Earth and for the lost colonists, no matter where that search might lead. Approaching the Epsilon Eridani debris field, Ambassador, reported Navigator Lee, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls of the Peacekeeper. Elena nodded, studying the scattered remains of what had been humanity's most ambitious colony ship, the New Horizon. Over 2,000 colonists. Gone. These energy signatures, murmured her alien second-in-command, Kavoth. Curious. You recognize them? Elena asked sharply. Kavoth's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. They resemble weapons developed by the progenitors. The extinct species. That's impossible. Perhaps, Kavoth said, too casually. Or perhaps extinction was exaggerated. When they found the colony's primary data core, Elena noticed how Kavoth tensed at its contents, coordinates to an unmapped system, and life signs. Human life signs. Elena stared at the data core's display in stunned silence. The blinking dots representing human life signs were moving, organized, not the chaotic pattern of survivors adrift in space. They're alive, she whispered. Hope and confusion warred within her. But how? The ship is destroyed. Kavoth moved closer to the display, his tall frame casting a shadow over the hologram. They appear to have been transported. The pattern suggests deliberate relocation. The Peacekeeper drifted slowly through the debris field. What remained of the New Horizon told a story of violent destruction. Hull plates torn apart, living quarters exposed to vacuum, engines shattered beyond recognition. Ambassador, I found something, called Science Officer Min from her station. The young officer's face was pale as she transmitted images to the main display. Body parts. But they're not human. The images showed biological matter unlike anything in Confederation records. Crystalline structures merged with organic tissue, circuitry embedded in what appeared to be muscle. Seal those samples in containment, Elena ordered. Full biohazard protocols. Kavoth studied the images with unusual intensity. Elena caught a flicker of recognition in his 4 eyes before he carefully composed his features. You know what these are, she said. It wasn't a question. I have theories. Kavoth replied carefully. The ship's communication system crackled. "Ambassador," came Navigator Lee's voice, "we've detected a temporal anomaly 3 kilometers starboard. Something is appearing." Alina rushed back to the bridge, Kevoth following closely. Through the view screen, she watched as space itself seemed to fold, revealing a small craft unlike any Confederation design. "Defensive systems online," ordered Security Chief Du, his fingers already activating weapon controls. "Hold fire," Alina countered. "Let's see what they want." The strange craft approached slowly, broadcasting no signals. Its surface seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it difficult to focus on. "It's scanning us," reported Officer Min. Kevoth stepped forward. "Ambassador, I recommend you allow me to handle this contact." Alina studied her second-in-command carefully. Since the mission began, Kevoth had been helpful but reserved. Now, there was an urgency in his manner that raised her suspicions. "Why you specifically, Kevoth?" Before he could answer, the ship's computer announced, "Receiving transmission, unknown format." The bridge speakers emitted sounds that hurt human ears, clicks, whines, and harmonic tones that seemed to bypass normal hearing. Kevoth straightened, his entire demeanor changing. He responded with similar sounds, his vocal apparatus producing frequencies Alina hadn't known he was capable of. The exchange continued for nearly a minute before Kevoth turned to Alina. "They wish to speak with the human leader. They say they have your colonists." "Who are they?" Alina demanded. Kevoth hesitated. "They call themselves the Watchers. They are descendants of those you know as progenitors." The bridge crew fell silent. The progenitors were supposed to be extinct for 10,000 years, yet here was apparent proof they, or their descendants, still existed. "Why did they take our colonists?" "They say your people were in danger. They rescued them." Kevoth paused. "Ambassador, they request your presence aboard their vessel." "Alone?" Security Chief Du immediately objected. "Absolutely not. It violates all first contact protocols." Alina studied the alien craft. If these beings had wanted to harm humans, they could have left the colonists to die. But trust came slowly in space. "Tell them I will meet them, but on the Peacekeeper. They may send one representative." Kevoth transmitted her response. The reply came swiftly. "They agree, but they wish to bring proof of the colonists' safety." 20 minutes later, Alina waited in the Peacekeeper's conference room. Security personnel lined the walls, weapons ready but not drawn. A shimmer of light appeared, coalescing into two figures, a being unlike any Alina had seen before, and a human woman in a New Horizon uniform. "Director Sun," Alina gasped, recognizing the colony mission leader. "You're alive." Sun nodded, her eyes clear but somehow different, more intense. "Ambassador Reyes, these beings saved us when the New Horizon was attacked." The alien beside Sun stood nearly 7 feet tall, with a body that seemed partly biological and partly mechanical. Its skin had a metallic sheen, and what might have been eyes glowed with inner light. "I am Observer," it said in perfect English. "We have monitored your species for some time." "Why take our colonists?" Alina asked directly. "The attack on your ship was by those who fear what humans might become. We intervened because your people have potential we have not seen in 50,000 years." Kevoth, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. "They believe humans may be able to interface with progenitor technology in ways other species cannot." Observer turned its attention to Kevoth. "Your presence here is unexpected, Keeper." Alina looked sharply at her second-in-command. "Keeper." Kevoth straightened. "My people have guarded progenitor knowledge for millennia. We serve as intermediaries between the remnants of their civilization and the Confederation." Director Sun spoke up. "Ambassador, the colonists are safe, but you need to know, the attack on New Horizon wasn't random. There's something happening in the Confederation, something big. The Observer showed me data cores from our attackers. They're part of a faction that believes humans must be eliminated before we discover our true capabilities. Elena felt the weight of implications settling on her shoulders. The missing colonists were alive, but had become pawns in a game centuries old. The Confederation had hidden the continued existence of the progenitors, and her own second-in-command had been keeping secrets. "I want to see the rest of my people," she said firmly to Observer. "Then we're going to have a long conversation about what's really happening in this part of the galaxy." Observer's glowing eyes focused on her. "You will see them, and then you must prepare. The forces that destroyed your colony ship are already moving against your homeworld. Time is short, Ambassador Reyes." Elena met its gaze steadily. "Then we'd better not waste any more of it. The files have been altered," Intelligence Officer Park whispered, showing Elena his findings in the ship's secure room. "Compare these Confederation historical records with our Earth copies of the first contact briefing." Elena studied them side by side. They edited out any mention of progenitor quarantine zones. Not just that. The hegemony. They've been using progenitor biotech to maintain their position in the Confederation hierarchy. A sudden explosion rocked the ship. Kvoth burst into the room, greenish blood staining his uniform. "Hegemony boarding parties," he gasped. "We've been betrayed by Council security." As they fled toward the escape pods, Kvoth grabbed Elena's arm. "I must confess something. I am descended from progenitor refugees. We've been watching humans for decades. Your species. You're special. You might be our only hope against the hegemony." Elena had no time to process Kvoth's revelation. The ship shuddered again as another explosion tore through the lower decks. Warning sirens blared throughout the Peacekeeper. "How many boarding parties?" she asked, steadying herself against a wall. "At least 3, Kvoth replied, wiping greenish blood from a cut on his arm. "They came from a diplomatic vessel. The Council delegation we were supposed to meet." Officer Park grabbed a weapon from a wall locker. "We need to reach the bridge. Captain Jin can initiate lockdown protocols." They hurried through corridors filled with smoke and flashing emergency lights. Crew members rushed past them, some wounded, others helping their injured comrades. "The data, Park," Elena said as they ran. "Make sure it's backed up." Park tapped his wrist device. "Already done. Sent to 3 secure Earth channels." They turned a corner and found themselves face to face with 2 hegemony soldiers. The aliens were tall, with sleek exoskeletons and multiple arms, each holding an energy weapon. Kvoth reacted instantly. He lunged forward with unexpected speed, moving in ways Elena had never seen his species move before. His hands emitted a strange blue light as he touched the first attacker, who collapsed instantly. The second soldier fired, but Kvoth dodged with impossible agility. Elena raised her own weapon and fired twice. The hegemony soldier fell. "What was that?" she asked Kvoth, staring at his hands as the blue glow faded. "Progenitor neural disruptor," he said simply. "One of many technologies the hegemony has forbidden." They reached the bridge to find chaos. Captain Jin lay wounded at his post, while Navigator Lee and Security Chief Du fought to seal the doors against another boarding party. "Ambassador," Jin coughed, blood staining his uniform. "They came out of nowhere. Diplomatic codes. They bypassed our security." "Why attack us now?" Elena asked, helping Park treat the captain's wounds. Kvoth moved to a console, his fingers flying across the controls. "Because of what Officer Park discovered. The hegemony has maintained control of the Confederation for millennia by hoarding progenitor technology. If other species learn the truth." Security Chief Du fired her weapon through the partially open bridge door. "Whatever the reason, we can't stay here. They're cutting through the secondary barriers." Elena made a quick decision. "How many functioning escape pods do we have?" 4, replied Navigator Lee, checking systems. "But they'll track them immediately." Kvoth looked up from his console. "There's another option. The observer vessel is still following us, cloaked. I can signal them." Elena hesitated only briefly. Hours ago, she would have questioned trusting Kvoth after learning he had hidden his true identity. But now, with hegemony forces cutting through the door, choices were limited. "Do it," she ordered. Kavoth activated a device on his wrist that Elena had always assumed was standard Confederation technology. Now she realized it was something far more advanced. Another explosion cut their conversation short. They'd reached the escape pod bay to find it under attack by a fresh group of hegemony soldiers. Security Chief Tu organized a defensive position. "Get to the pods," she shouted to Elena. "We'll hold them off." Elena refused to leave her crew behind. She grabbed a fallen weapon and joined the defense. For several minutes, the corridor became a battlefield. Energy weapons fired from both sides, filling the air with the smell of ozone and burning metal. Then suddenly, the ship's exterior wall began to glow. Everyone, including the hegemony soldiers, paused in confusion. "They're here," Kavoth said with satisfaction. The wall dissolved, revealing the observer vessel hovering just outside the Peacekeeper's hull. A field of energy extended from it, creating a breathable corridor between the ships. "Go," ordered Elena. Everyone through. The crew began moving through the energy corridor. The hegemony soldiers, momentarily stunned by the unexpected development, resumed firing. Elena, Kavoth, and Security Chief Du provided covering fire as their people escaped. Captain Jin, supported by Navigator Lee, was among the last to enter the observer vessel. "Ambassador, we must go now," Kavoth urged as the ship shuddered around them. "They're overriding the self-destruct protocols. They want the ship intact to hide evidence of their attack." As they backed toward the energy corridor, Elena asked the question that had been burning in her mind since Kavoth's revelation. "Why us? Why are humans so important to you?" Kavoth fired one last shot before stepping into the corridor. "Because you remind us of what we once were, before fear and power corrupted our civilization. And because your neural patterns allow for direct interface with our most advanced technology, something the hegemony has tried and failed to achieve for thousands of years." As they entered the observer vessel and the energy corridor collapsed behind them, Elena watched her ship, and all it represented of humanity's diplomatic mission, fall under hegemony control. "They'll claim we attacked them," she said bitterly. "They'll turn the Confederation against Earth." Observer approached, its partly mechanical form moving with surprising grace. "That is their plan. But they have miscalculated. By attacking you directly, they have revealed themselves sooner than they intended. And now you have something they fear most." "What's that?" Elena asked. "Knowledge," said Kavoth, "and allies they thought long dead." Officer Park joined them, his expression grim but determined. "So what now, Ambassador? We're officially fugitives from the Confederation." Elena looked around at her surviving crew, at the advanced technology of the observer vessel, and at Kavoth, a being whose existence challenged everything she thought she knew about galactic history. "Now," she said firmly, "we find the colonists, gather our evidence, and expose the truth, even if we have to bring down the entire Confederation to do it." The progenitor outpost hummed with ancient technology far beyond Confederation standards. Elena watched in amazement as the missing colonists moved among the aliens, already comfortable with technology humans shouldn't understand. "You kidnapped our people," Elena accused the progenitor leader Ta. "We saved them," Ta corrected. "The hegemony would have eliminated all witnesses. We needed to know if humans could integrate with our technology. And can we? Beyond our expectations, your adaptability exceeds even our evolutionary peak." A young colonist named G demonstrated by interfacing directly with a progenitor console, manipulating energy fields with thought alone. Kavoth burst in. "The hegemony fleet has changed course. They're heading for Earth, not here. They mean to eliminate humanity entirely while the Confederation debates what to do." Elena felt her blood run cold. "How long do we have?" 3 days at most, Kavoth replied. "They're gathering their forces at the edge of your solar system." The hidden progenitor base was built inside an asteroid in an unmapped system. The walls glowed with soft blue light, making Alina feel like she was underwater. The air smelled clean, with a hint of something like cinnamon. Ta, the progenitor leader, stood nearly 7 feet tall. Unlike Observer, Tay appeared more organic than mechanical, with skin that shifted colors slightly as she moved. "Show the ambassador what we've learned," Tai instructed G. The young colonist, who couldn't have been more than 25 years old, placed his hands on the console again. The air above it filled with three-dimensional images of Earth's solar system, hegemony fleet movements, and Confederation communication patterns. "I can feel the data," Jai explained, his eyes wide with wonder. "It's like the information flows directly into my mind." Alina approached the console cautiously. "May I?" Jai stepped aside. Alina placed her hands where his had been. At first, nothing happened. Then she felt a tingling sensation, like gentle electricity moving up her arms. The images above the console blurred and then sharpened, responding to her thoughts. "Remarkable," Ta said. "Your neural patterns align perfectly with our interface technology. It took our ancestors centuries to develop this ability." Alina pulled her hands away, unsettled by the experience. Why is this ability so important? Why would the hegemony want to destroy us for it? Kvoth moved to stand beside her. The progenitors built their civilization on thought interface technology. It allowed them to advance faster than any species before or since. The hegemony has been trying to reverse engineer it for thousands of years, but their biology is incompatible. "They've been using modified versions," added Ta, "crude imitations that require extensive augmentation. With these, they've maintained technological superiority over other Confederation species." Alina looked around the room at the 200 colonists who had survived the attack on the New Horizon. They were working alongside progenitors, learning their technology with surprising speed. Director Sun approached, her movements more fluid than Alina remembered. "Ambassador, you need to see this." She led Alina to another chamber where several colonists lay on medical beds, surrounded by glowing fields of energy. Their bodies showed signs of injury from the attack, but the wounds were healing visibly. "Progenitor medical technology," Sun explained. "It's not just healing them, it's enhancing them. Our neural plasticity, our ability to adapt. The progenitors say it's unprecedented." Alina watched as a badly injured man sat up, the burns on his face fading before her eyes. "Is this safe?" "Safer than dying," Sun replied pragmatically. "But more than that. It's opening doors we never imagined. The progenitors have been hiding for millennia, afraid to challenge the hegemony directly. But they think we might be able to change the balance of power." "By becoming their weapons?" Alina asked sharply. Ta had followed them into the medical chamber. "Not weapons. Partners. What you're seeing is an acceleration of abilities your species would eventually develop naturally." Before Alina could respond, Navigator Lee rushed in. "Ambassador, we're receiving transmissions from Earth. The hegemony has presented evidence to the Confederation Council, claiming we attacked their diplomatic vessel without provocation." "What's Earth's response?" "Admiral Sue is stalling, demanding an investigation. But most of the Confederation is siding with the hegemony. Earth's defenses are on high alert, but against a full hegemony fleet." He didn't need to finish. Everyone knew Earth's defenses, while impressive for a newly spacefaring race, were no match for the hegemony's ancient weapons. Kvoth joined them, his expression grave. "There's more. The hegemony is broadcasting warnings about dangerous human progenitor experiments. They're claiming you've been taken hostage by rogue elements." Alina's mind raced. The hegemony was building a narrative to justify Earth's destruction, and without communication with the Confederation, she couldn't counter it. "We need to return to Earth immediately," she said. "Warn them about what's coming." "The hegemony would detect any conventional ship," Kvoth pointed out. Tai made a gesture with her long fingers, and a holographic display appeared. "There is another way. We have ships that can travel through dimensional pockets, spaces the hegemony cannot detect." Like the one observer used, Elena remembered. Yes, but larger. Designed for evacuation if our outpost was ever discovered. Elena studied the alien vessel in the display. It resembled a giant manta ray, sleek and organic. How many people can it transport? Enough for your crew and some of the enhanced colonists, Tai answered. Those who have progressed furthest with the integration. Director Sun stepped forward. I'll organize a team. 15 of our people have fully adapted to the progenitor tech. They can operate their systems without assistance now. Elena was torn. Part of her wanted to reject this alliance completely. The progenitors had taken humans without permission, experimented on them. Yet they had also saved them from certain death, and now offered the only hope of warning Earth in time. If we do this, she said to Tai, I need guarantees. No more secrets, no more manipulations. If humans and progenitors are to be allies, it must be as equals. Tai's skin shifted to a deeper blue. You speak as if you have leverage, Ambassador. The hegemony is about to destroy your homeworld. Kvoth stepped between them. Tai, the Ambassador is right. My people have observed humans for decades. They value their independence above all else. Force them, and they resist. Treat them as equals, and they will surprise you with their loyalty. A tense silence filled the room. Finally, Tai inclined her head. Very well. Full disclosure from this point forward, but we must move quickly. How soon can your ship be ready? Elena asked. It already is, Tai replied. The question is, are your people ready for what comes next? Earth is about to learn it is not alone in ways far more profound than the Confederation's diplomatic overtures suggested. Elena looked at her crew, at the enhanced colonists, at Kvoth, who had hidden his true nature for years yet now stood as perhaps humanity's strongest ally. Earth has faced extinction before, she said firmly. We're still here. The hegemony is about to learn why. Here's the revised story in simple English, focusing on key elements. Elena's special ship jumped through space using an experimental drive that worked differently from normal faster-than-light travel. They arrived near Jupiter just as the enemy hegemony fleet appeared. Officer Park looked at the screens and said, Earth's defense forces are ready, but they look weak against these attackers. Elena knew they needed a plan. She opened the communication system and spoke clearly to all Earth forces. Fall back to defensive position Delta. Our allies are coming. Suddenly, strange and ancient progenitor ships appeared from hidden spaces between dimensions. These were powerful vessels that looked nothing like human designs. Behind them came ships piloted by enhanced human colonists, people who had been improved with advanced progenitor technology. The battle changed quickly. The humans used smart, unexpected fighting methods, and the progenitor technology made their attacks much stronger. The hegemony warriors were completely surprised by this new combined force. Within hours, the fight was over. The hegemony fleet was destroyed, and Earth was safe. When the Confederation Council arrived, they found a completely different situation than they expected. Humanity was no longer a small, weak species. They now stood as equals with the progenitors, a powerful alien civilization that had been hidden for thousands of years. Their partnership changed everything about how different species would interact in the galaxy. Delegate Kim looked around at the destroyed ships and asked Elena, what happens next? Elena watched Earth rising over Jupiter's big, swirling surface. Her eyes showed both hope and determination. Now, she said quietly, we build something better. Together. The moment represented more than just a military victory. It was the start of a new chapter for humanity. A time when they would no longer be alone or afraid in the vast, mysterious universe.